Media by the People presents.
Welcome to the I Love Wine and Dogs podcast, hosted by Heidi Huebner and Timothy Stone Dancer Coleman.
With today's special guest, Becky Blue.
This is a SAG-AFTRA approved micropodcast.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the I Love Wine and Dogs podcast. You guys are blazing the internet and liking and sharing and giving us all this feedback. We really appreciate it. I am so happy to be here with our co-host, creator, and producer, my sister. Welcome, Miss Heidi Huebner. How you doing, Heidi?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another show. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited for our guest, Becky Blue, and always to see my Timothy Stone Dancer Coleman brother. This is like my favorite part of the week when we do this.
Gosh, mine too. Listen, it has been one of those days. You know, when you're doing something positive, Heidi, I know we talk about like just the forces of good and positivity and just shining your light as bright as you possibly can. And today was just like one of those days where I felt like I was being hammered in every direction. And it was like, you know what? Like my bubble of thought was only, I can't wait to get to see my sister as we record this show and have Becky on the show. I'm so excited that this is the way that I get to end the day with positivity and love and just sharing what we do with the community.
I love that. And I just want to also share a new piece of our merch. This is my Razorback workout. We're so excited. There's so much merch you can get. And I just keep buying stuff every week. I'm like, this would be cute. I would love this. You know, got to promote everything so people know to continue to find us and follow us.
Well, that's right. You got to promote it, but also it's also great that you look so cute in it. You know what I'm saying? That's a cute shirt.
Thank you. And comfortable too.
Shameless plugs, people. Shameless plugs. Everybody out there watching this, whether you are a fully established entrepreneur, whether you're just starting out, whatever you got going down, listen, you know what it's like on day one. You got to push and brand and get your stuff out there.
If we're not talking about ourselves, nobody else is going to talk about ourselves. So, right? It's like we're all here because we got good stuff going on.
On today's show, we've got a special treat for you guys. Becky Blue is an author, a TEDx speaker, dog lover, winery owner, and retired nurse. She wrote Turning, the magic and mystery of more days as she contemplated turning 60. As a geriatric nurse, she wanted to investigate and contemplate the magic and mystery of her own aging journey. She wanted to embrace the serendipity and surprises of this next chapter. Her award-winning book is being used by book clubs and serving as an inspiration for anyone reaching a milestone birthday. Becky and her husband Dan live in South Dakota, spend their time in California at a winery and with wine tasting rooms in Napa Valley. They often drive to Northern California from South Dakota. That is a long trip. So they can bring along their cherished pup and lively Vizsla named Vivi. Please welcome to the show our guest, Miss Becky Blue.
Hi, guys. It's so fun to be with you. Thank you. Yes, promote the book. I've also got the wine bottles here. I feel like I'm schlepping just a lot of things today, but it's a treat to be with you.
We are very happy to have you, and we're so happy that Vivi popped in and blessed us with her gorgeous presence.
That's right.
And
if anybody's has a Vizsla or been around them, they definitely pop in and out. I mean, to get them to stay put in one spot is a little bit of a challenge. Yeah.
She did great earlier. So she's like, I'm on my break. I'm done. But before we delve into talking about the book and everything, I got to jump into the wine because it's so cool because it's your winery, you and your husband and partners. So I'm going to let you share the wines today.
Yeah, that'd be great. You know, I know you guys and all your listeners know a lot about wine, but they maybe haven't seen ours because I guess you would call us a boutique winery in the Napa Valley. So I've got what I'm drinking tonight. I'm in kind of a Chardonnay mood. I guess, you know, avoid the purple teeth on the podcast. Maybe that's a good idea. So this is Jessup Cellars, and we really make a great Chardonnay. I don't know if you guys are Chardonnay lovers. I tend to be a little more Sauvignon Blanc, a Sauv Blanc, but I do love our Chardonnay. It's not real heavy, but it's also not real minerally either. It's kind of a nice California Chardonnay. And then the other brand is Handwritten wines. I should hold that up closer. And this is our brand where we really celebrate Cabernets. So it's a lot of Cabernets from different AVAs in the Napa Valley area. So you can, this one happens to be Howell Mountain, but you can come to our tasting room. Both the tasting rooms are in Yountville, just at opposite ends of the street with the French Laundry in between and the Bouchon Bakery. So it's all pretty handy. But the great thing about the tasting here is you'll do side-by-side tastings of Cabernets of the same clone of a Cabernet from different AVAs. And so you can really experience the factor of terroir in the wine and what makes it taste different. So, yeah, we'd love to have anybody come and visit, and happy to hook you up.
That's excellent. I'm more on the red side, so I'm so happy you introduced 2 wines.
Yeah.
I was going to smile through the first one, but I'm really happy about the second one.
That's awesome. I'll make sure you get to taste our handwritten, Tim. I think you would. Are you a cab guy or with red?
I am indeed.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. That's good to hear, because I feel like the world is kind of, maybe the tastes are shifting a little bit with what people are eating and all that. But gosh, I love our red wines, and California does it. That we do it great there. Yeah, agree.
And I love the Chardonnays. So that's, okay. I'm always like, oh yes. But I mean, I really do like all wine. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I really do love it all. And it's just fun learning and tasting, right? So on that note, everybody, we will be right back after our commercial break.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Watch season 1 of I Love Wine and Dogs on Spotify.
Wherever you live, go to your local shelter or work with your local rescue group to bring in your new forever loving baby if you're ready. Remember, you got to make sure you're ready for this commitment, but you can foster, you can volunteer. There are so many other ways that you can give back and help your fellow community in the pet world.
Like, share, and subscribe on Facebook and Instagram at I Love Wine and Dogs.
ILoveWineandDogs.shop, your one-stop shop to support loving pets, good wine, and great people doing awesome things in their communities.
Welcome back to the show.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. And we are going to now talk about Turning, the book that our guest, Becky Blue, wrote, which is an amazing book. I have all of these notes. Notes. Again, we could talk, but I just want to get to, because I think it's so interesting, like, what inspired you to write this book? And I know why I know what it means and why you did it, but please share with our guests, because I think it's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I knew I was coming up on my 60th birthday, and I just happened to be one of the kind of younger ones in my friend group. So a lot of them had already turned 60, but they were kind of freaking out about it, like, how did this happen? And oh my gosh, I'm not sure what to do with this turning 60, and what does this even mean? And I thought, well, okay, I'm a geriatric nurse. So I spent most of my career taking care of, not so much taking care of older people, but actually teaching a lot about the changes that happen to us while we age. And so as I was coming up on that milestone birthday for myself, I thought, okay, I'm going to use all these resources that I have, this library of aging kind of topic books, and I'm going to start writing about this and writing about my own aging in real time. And it also happened to coincide with the beginning of the pandemic. And so I had a lot of time to write. And so it turned out to be a real wonderful time of reflecting and collecting stories from friends and colleagues. And so, it's not a real scientific book by any means, but it is definitely about real life stories of what people experience and how they view their own aging. And it's very positive, and that's what I wanted it to be.
So I feel like your career being a geriatric nurse prepared you, unbeknownst to you, to be able to write this book, because you're helping people and trying to embrace taking care of yourself.
I love that take. Sorry. Because right away it made me think of something I love about being this age, is you start connecting the dots. Like when I was a little girl, I loved to play the dot to dot games, but that's a real blessing of being kind of this third chapter of life. You can kind of look back and see how your life has just built on, for good or for bad in some cases, but that it's got you where you are today. And so I love that take. And I've thought of that often, Heidi, that that all the different places I worked in nursing kind of brought me to this moment.
Absolutely. And then, when I read books, I always mark things that speak to me. Mm-hmm. And two people I know that influenced you were Grandma Johnson and also the page about Eleanor. So I want you to first talk about Grandma Johnson. Because you put her in the book.
Yeah, I did. So I kind of picture her even now sitting in that corner little soft upholstered chair in her house by the picture window. And it was only a block from my school. So I got to grow up and really had grandma in my life. But she just kind of let life flow at her. And she was kind of an older grandma, or she always looked kind of old to me, but yet she always was very caring and very gentle. And so I think I learned how to really observe aging by watching her, and how she changed from maybe when I was 10 to when I was in my 20s. And at that point, then she had to be in the nursing home. But she always kind of kept this sort of lovely disposition about her. And so I'm very grateful to my grandma. She never was stingy about her love or her cookies or her generosity. And so, yeah, Grandma Johnson, Grandma Marie is pretty special. And there's a couple of poems that I wrote about her that are in the book. Yeah.
Again, connecting another dot. And then I'm going to connect another dot to Eleanor.
Yes. Yeah. Eleanor taught me a lot because she's one of these people that was just in and out of my life in maybe 10 minutes. But she changed my view of aging. And I opened one of the chapters about her. And I think, kind of how we all have this view of, what life is going to be like when you're turning 70. Well, Eleanor happened to be turning 70, but when I saw her, we were traveling in New Zealand. And for any of you who've been to New Zealand, it's absolutely one of my favorite places. It's like one big national park. And so we were up at the top of a hill, on top of a mountain at a lookout, and we saw this bicycle riding up the steep, steep hill, and these strong legs just pedaling, and very fit. And I thought, okay, that's some 20-something guy, like one of my boys. The bike rolls up to us, comes to a stop, takes off the helmet. And here it's this 70-year-old woman named Eleanor. And we were just stunned how impressive she was, not only just with her physical abilities, but then also just her attitude. And when she talked about it, she said that this is something I planned for a long time. She's from England. And so she had traveled all the way to New Zealand to mark her 70th birthday. And I think she was probably with some kind of a group or whatever, but she was certainly doing this all on her bicycling on her own. And then she leaves those wise words with me about, celebrate every birthday you can, because you're not going to get them back again. So I'm like, okay, I think some people are, and I do this sometimes too, like, oh, your birthday's coming up. Oh yeah, well, let's go out and have drinks or whatever. But you really need to mark it in ways that are meaningful for you. If that means you're going to write something down, or you're going to call a certain friend, or you're going to really celebrate and go on a trip, but you are worth celebrating. And so to really mark those birthdays, especially the ones that end in a 0, those are kind of a big deal.
It's so true, because that's the day we were born. That's the day the earth was given us, and that is to be celebrated. We are here for a purpose. Whatever higher being you believe in, we are all special. And yes, we should celebrate that day. And I've done that many times where I'm like, I'm too lazy, whatever. And
I was going to say, or it's a Monday night, it's like way more fun if your birthday's on a Saturday or something. But yeah, no, you got to mark it.
I think a lot of how we go as far as saying kind of indoctrinated from media and from the entertainment industry is that everybody's searching for the day they turn 13 instead of celebrating like where you are, and the fact that it is a blessing, no matter who you are, no matter your gender, no matter your race, no matter your background, it is a gift of grace that you're able to still achieve another year.
My big thing is that there's no expiration date. So, think of something crazy you want to do, and heck, just go do it. You might fail, it might not work out, but you might have made a new friend along the way, or you probably have learned something about yourself. So just go for it.
I love that.
So I I wrote a little note in my journal, and it says, be Eleanor. Because if there's something I want to, seriously, Becky, it's if there is another, adventure or something I want to do, big or small, I'm like, be Eleanor and just do it. Because if she's riding a bike at 70.
Yeah. And not just riding a bike. I mean, this was a big elevation. Amazing.
Right.
Yeah. And I wish I would have gotten her contact information. I didn't, because it really was just such a quick exchange. But to think, and she never knew that I put this in a book, and to think of all the people who've read my book and been inspired by her, that would probably blow her mind if she knew that. And to hear you say that today, you being in Los Angeles and she's back in England and somebody's on a podcast saying, I want to be Eleanor. I mean, that's so amazing. What more could we ask for from our life that we inspire people to that degree?
I'm telling you, she's going to somehow, your book is going to fall into her hands, or she's going to see something and go, oh my gosh, and she's going to find you. I feel it.
Thank you. I love that.
Things that I think is really powerful about inspiring other people is that, when you're living an authentic life, and you have good and positive intentions towards people, you're never going to know. It's kind of like being a teacher or a professor. You're not going to always know how many of your students you inspired if they don't all show up at the same time to say thank you, right? And so these generations and generations of people become inspired by a story. And I believe that the light has a way of finding itself back to you. If she finds out about your book, that's fantastic. But I think Grace will find her because she's an inspiration, because she's living an authentic life.
That's so good. It's so good. And I love that she was willing to share her story. I mean, she didn't have to stop and visit with us. And that's all what I talk about a lot with the culture of aging is good. Being 70 and riding a bike up a mountain in New Zealand is not what you typically think of, right? For a 70-year-old. So I'm all about how do we change the culture of aging. And I think it's Peter Bregman says that to change the culture of aging, you have to either tell stories about other people who are doing impressive things, or you have to do impressive things yourself and then tell those stories. So, that's what we're doing today on this podcast. I love the format for that. But I think so often, we might do something kind of crazy on our birthday, but think, well, I'm not going to tell anybody I did that. Or, I don't want to, sound boastful, or I don't want to, show it on social media or whatever. But you'll inspire somebody if you do. And little by little, we'll change that culture of aging. And then everybody will just be doing wild and crazy things on their 70th birthday, which I think would be great.
I love it. We need to collect stories.
Yeah.
Becky, some way. You start just because what a fun go-to page on our website or your website where it's like, share all 70-year-olds, share your wild birthday celebrations.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
We'll be right back after these messages. ILoveWineandDogs.shop, your one-stop shop to support loving pets, good wine, and great people doing awesome things in their communities. From school classrooms to living rooms across New York City, our mission is to amplify untold stories and create space for healing, leadership, and transformation, one voice at a time. Welcome to the Art of Storytelling, a media education initiative that empowers individuals to find their voice, craft their narrative, and share their truth through the power of podcasting and digital storytelling. Reach out to us today at Coleman Global. Welcome back to the show.
I have a story of one of the book clubs that I went and visited a few months, well, it was back in the winter time. And I kind of put out this question about, well, has anybody done anything kind of, new this week that you haven't done before? And one woman kind of raised her hand and she goes, well, I have this coffee group and every Wednesday we get together for coffee, but we promise that we have to go somewhere new every week. And so on this particular Wednesday, she said, instead of going to a coffee shop, we all went to the local ski hill and we went tubing. So this group of like 70 something ladies, they all got their inner tubes and they went down the hill, and had a blast. And I said, well, now who did you tell about that? Who did you tell that story to? And she kind of got sheepish and she kind of shrugged her shoulders. I'm sure her husband knew where she went or whatever. But I said, that's how we change the culture of aging. If you Put pictures on social media that you did that, or make sure you tell your grandkids, and they might think you're nuts, but who cares? I mean, they're going to realize that being an older person can still be fun, and we can still really enjoy life. So, yeah.
That is that is the message. Like, forget your age, live.
Yeah.
Live your life, do it and live. Age is really just a number.
Absolutely.
I joke, my forever age is 28. And I mean, I literally kind of stick to that. Sometimes my body's like, well, not so much, but
yeah.
Right.
That's the 28. I think I say 34. I don't know why. But, a question I love to ask people, and you've probably heard this, is, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? And I think that, it's a wonderful question, even more of it from a clinical standpoint. When I was a geriatric nurse, I would ask that, because if they were, 65, but they said, well, I think I'm 85, that says a lot about how they're feeling, or what their, maybe even their psychological state is. But if they're 65 and they say, I feel like I'm 28 or 34, then you're like, okay, that's good.
Tim, what's your age?
I knew you were going to say it. I just knew you were going to say it. I'm dying inside. So you know what? I gotta tell you, I think I'm more in the like 37 range. I was telling Heidi in a previous episode my age. When people say, "Oh, you look like you could be blah blah blah," I just say yes. Oh, you seem, you have such a young spirit. You seem like I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Right? My age has changed on me over time, because not just because of the natural cycle of life, but when I was younger, I never had any friends that were younger than me or my age. They were all older than me. And everybody always used to say, oh, you have such an old soul. And then somewhere around like 35 to 37, it kind of flipped. And they said, wow, you just have such a young spirit. And I said, well, I don't know what the difference is between my spirit and my soul, but I'm going to have to talk to them about this age thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel more in that like 37 range.
Yeah. That's good. And I think that's very interesting. I had never thought of that. There's a certain age where you are complimented by having an old soul. And then at a certain age, then you have such a young spirit, which is probably happens to the same people, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
I like that.
Defies logic, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's something I always write sign my books. I always say, you are timeless. That's what I love to tell people. You are timeless. And like you said, Heidi, it's just a number. Don't fixate on, and our culture kind of does that. We put people into silos based on their age and everything, but I think it's getting better.
I do too. So another chapter that I just want to not touch on, but that also spoke to me was chapter 5, the power of a scoop of water, because water is life. Yeah. Water, we need water. I sometimes used to joke, we love our wine, but I'm like, water is the nectar of the gods. Like, we all need water. And you putting in that book, and I was like, that's right.
Yeah. And the quote I love from there, actually, this kind of is a little timely, because we're all sad about Robert Redford, right? I'm totally sad about Robert Redford. He was like my schoolgirl crush. So I've been wanting to watch Out of Africa. And so on page 45 of the book, it talks about Isaac Dinesen, a Danish writer whose moving memoir, Out of Africa, inspired the classic movie by the same name. And she wrote about her view of the healing power of water. I know of a cure for everything: salt water, sweat or tears or the salt sea. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
Yeah. So, thanks for bringing up that chapter. For me, it's special even because I talk about my faith story in that too. And I go into the meaning of baptism. And then also just from the health perspective of, it really is nectar of the gods. I mean, you've got to be drinking water. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm salt water many, many, many times. I have not felt good, and I'm jumping in the ocean. When I lived in the Bahamas, I was doing a show. They were like, jump in the ocean. And I am telling you, sinus infection, gone. Really? Aches and pains in the joint, gone. Water is amazing. And another thing I just want to share too in the book that I love is she has, after every chapter, it's called Your Turn. And at the end of the chapters, there are questions. I'm just going to kind of show 3 questions. And I love that because so I write things after. I read the book first, and now I'm going back and really looking at the questions. That's how I process things. Because sometimes I'm skipping around because, again, like the water chapter, I'm like, okay, I love that. What are those questions? What I need to look at? So I love that exercise. Some people are more organized and they're going to answer them in order.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm all over the place because that's me. It's just, but I love it. It's like along with being Eleanor. So thank you for putting that in the book, Becky. I love it. I think it's great.
Well, thanks so much for saying that. And I think it also, so it makes it great for just a self-study like you're doing it, but it also makes a really fun, like I said, a book club. If you've got or a group of neighbors, or I've even had like mothers and daughters do it together, which is a very interesting conversation because I think so often we see, the women who are maybe 40 something, they're starting to freak out already about like turning 50 or whatever. And maybe their mom is 70 or 80. And so to really talk about some of these meaningful things, those questions can just really open up some great conversations. So those questions actually were kind of an afterthought. I hadn't really thought about doing that until I almost got done with the book. And then I thought, if I were reading it, I think I'd want to have some guidance in how to process all this information. Yeah. So I'm glad I love that you are reading it twice that way. That's cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Compassionate way to think about, sorry, Heidi, but what a compassionate way to think about approaching the world as a writer. I don't find, we all engage in different types of stories and whatever kind of like hits us and grips us and what we can connect to based on our experience on the earth. However, it's very rare to find a writer who is already so compassionate in how they would like their story and their work to be received that they invite you into it. It's not just your story, Becky Blue. It's everybody's story, right? Like you're giving everyone an opportunity to start their own book club or even just as small as an intergenerational conversation in your own family.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for saying that, because I've often said, what matters the most to me is that people have an experience with the book. It's not, do you like the book or whatever. It's, I want you to have an experience with the book, because it's just like, I wrote it, but then it's out of my hands and let's see what happens. And one of my favorite stories with that was when the book first got published, I was kind of busy sending them off to a lot of different people. So I kept going to this same little ship and pack store not far from my house. And the gentleman was a bit of a curmudgeon who owns the store. And he goes, oh, you're back again kind of thing. And I got tired of spending all this money with him. And so then I finally said, would you ever like barter? Like I could I'll give you a book and you give me the shipping, and he goes, sure. And so, then he started to kind of page through it, and he saw there was a chapter, which I can't remember the number. There's a chapter in here on forgiveness. And he goes, maybe I'll look at that. That might help me with my dad. And that was kind of all he said to me. Well, the next week I came in, books to ship, and he goes, hey, I read your book and that chapter on forgiveness. Yeah, I called my dad and we talked about it and things are better now. I mean, wow. Okay. If that was the one person who read this book and that was one good thing that came from my book, fantastic. If I helped bring a father and a son together, so yeah, you just don't know what happens when you put something out into the universe, kind of like we talked about earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, are you getting that kind of feedback on your website or from the folks that, are you receiving all these types of amazing stories that maybe you're not there personally hearing it one-on-one, but people are sending this kind of feedback to you?
Yeah. Some people have written handwritten letters, which is fantastic. I mean, there's no way I've gotten enough to really get my arms around the impact of the book, but I have thought of reaching back maybe through my social media and just simply really asking for that kind of feedback, because I love those stories, and it just makes me want to keep writing and keep putting things out. Yeah. If you have an idea, Tim, or if you want to run that part of my social media, let me know, because I'm like, it sounds cumbersome, but no, it would be great.
No, I mean, listen, you know what? Here's the funny thing. Heidi and I, she always is like, you're overthinking it, Tim. I definitely we'll talk after the show. We've got ideas. We've got ideas. It doesn't have to be cumbersome, I promise.
Okay, thanks.
Very good. Well, on that note, everybody, we're going to be right back after this commercial with Becky Blue. Thank you.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Ooh, look at you in our logo. You have squashed all your FOMO. We see you and we like it.
I Love Wine and Dogs is now streaming for millions of fans on YouTube.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Tim and Heidi with the I Love Wine and Dogs podcast. We are having yet another amazing conversation. Our guest today is Becky Blue. And, you know, if you're just joining us, if you just tuned into this, I don't care what you're doing, rewind back to the beginning because we've dropped some $1 million nuggets, okay? You need to see the whole episode. And so, Becky, if we could just really quickly go back just a little bit. You were just speaking about a gentleman who shared his story of healing between him and his father after reading your book. And there are many times, you know, for the guy contingent, there are many times when I feel like there are things that maybe for whatever reason, guys won't pick up certain books. Right. Or they'll see their wife or significant other with a book and it's like, oh, OK, yeah, I hear the story, but that's really not for me. And I think we short ourselves the opportunity to expand in numerous ways by judging a book before we even read it, because it was written by a woman, because the cover is this, because it's the, you know, whatever ridiculous reason people put on it. So I would love for more men to experience your book and the richness inside of it, because this is not a gender book. This is a culture book. Right? This is a state of culture. This is sharing of stories. This is a review of a person's life and what you've done with your time that you've been given and what you choose to reframe in your mind to do before your transition. Right? So so how do we get the guys involved? Like what's the book club like, you know?
Well, I think it'd even be great to be shared with couples. I think that would be really fascinating. And I would say that I was intentional about reaching out to certain people who I knew had great stories or expertise in certain fields. So I have a gentleman who went after he was in a kind of a big leadership role in infectious diseases. He chose, okay, I'm going to go back abroad and be part of the Peace Corps. It was something he had done in his 20s. But he's decided to go back and do this when he was like in his late 60s. I have an example of someone who was a successful businessman and decided to go to seminary and become a pastor at the end of his career. And I have theologians who give just some amazing testaments to in talking about grief and really helping people understand grief. So these are topics that, I guess I did make the cover hot pink. Maybe that was a misstep. But, and, you know, as Heidi and I know, girls like yak, and we're all about birthdays and talking about all those things that I don't know what guys say about birthdays. I guess I don't know, but I know they have issues like women do, you know, like, hey, I've had this great career. Now what's next for me? I don't just want to go play golf every day. I don't want to leave where I live to go live somewhere hot. You know, I mean, if you do, that's fine. But we are all humans with just a range of experiences that we grew up with, that we worked with. And what I think about now, I mean, at this stage in the world, we need all of that passion and aptitude and experience that people in their 60s, 70s, 80s can bring to this world. So it is not time for us to check out. It is time for us to step up.
This is so powerful. I appreciate you sharing that. You know, I've done some work here in New York City with a nonprofit where it's called Reserve, and they take folks who have retired and, you know, in a bunch of different types of professions, and they help them find, you know, 1 day a week, maybe part-time, maybe remote types of things so that they can stay active and engaged and involved, but in situations where they can share the knowledge that they've gained along the way. And so we've brought some of these folks into classrooms so that they can, and young people, if you only go by what you see on social media, young people don't want anything to do with anybody who's even 30 seconds older than them. right? If you want to live in that
Yeah.
space, right?
Yeah.
But when you actually introduce that type of wisdom and experience into a younger conversation, quote unquote, it has such a transformational power. It changes the dynamic of the whole classroom. So I love how, you're saying celebrate at any age, right? And give people the value they deserve. You don't make
Yeah.
it to 70, 80, and 90 by mistake.
Yeah, that's right. And you're here for a reason. And let's make it, be something significant. And, I think of how many people, I love that you're talking about the youth and pairing them up, because so many of kids, unfortunately, don't get to live by their grandparents, but they probably adore their grandparents, but for whatever reason, they're not by their grandparents. So if you can kind of have a stand-in kind of grandpa or grandpa, I just think those are beautiful relationships. Oh my gosh. And one thing that is really always on my heart and is so common is the loneliness that is experienced by both of those populations, right? We know that I'm on a nonprofit board that works with the 20 somethings, and it's a ministry. And yeah, we talk about loneliness in that age group, but then we know there's loneliness in the 70s, 80s, 90s. So that's why, obviously, probably why you're bringing them together as well. But there's lots of possibilities.
The knowledge that older people have. I have volunteers, and some of, I'm always like, well, what were you doing before you retired? It's incredible what these people have done.
Yeah.
And they're a wealth of knowledge and fun stories. And it's like adventures. It's fun. And it's, we have to tell our stories. And again, we talk about the importance of human connection to each other and talking, not being on our device, right?
Yeah.
And I love the idea, Becky, of you saying this book, the couples should get this. What a great read. And then to be able to discuss the questions afterwards, really, no matter what age you are, because it's just embracing living. So couples,
absolutely.
Do you hear that, everybody? Start a couples book club, or just you and your other person get this book and read it together as a couple. The chapters are lovely. It's not a huge read.
No.
And you can get through a chapter very easily, and it's I love it. I put that challenge out there to everybody.
That's right.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I also want to talk about, Becky, you have taken up another activity later in life, a form of dance. If you want to share, Tim will love that, as also being a professional dancer. He and I, that's how we met. But share your your revisited passion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as much as I want other people to experience my book, I finally realized a couple years after it was published that I need to experience my book too. I need to be doing what I preach or practice what I preach. So I thought, okay, I need to reach back. I always say, what's kind of hanging out backstage in your brain or in your heart that's kind of just still there. It might have been there years ago, but maybe it's time to revisit. And for me, it was ballet. And so I had taken ballet as a college student for a PE credit. So I literally only took one semester, but I loved it. And so then life happens and I did never do it again until about, I guess it was also during COVID, where I thought, I'm just going to go on YouTube and see if I remember some of these positions and some of these steps. So I did that for a while to kind of build my confidence. And then I looked locally, and sure enough, the same studio where I had taken that PE class in college still exists in my community. Kind of looks just the same, but just kind of that right amount of grunge. It's really cool, and chipped paint and all that. So I signed up for ballet. And so that was now about 3 years ago, I guess. And so I've stuck with it. And I tell people it's just been the most life-giving thing. It's been something that builds my confidence. Mostly I joined because I thought, okay, this is going to help my balance. I'm all about fall prevention and strength and posture. I'm a fanatic about posture. But I didn't realize how fun it would be and what a community I would find. So I've got other adults, men and women in my class, probably ranging from their 30s up into, there's even somebody who's in their 70s, I think. So yeah, for me, ballet was that thing that was kind of tucked back in my heart or in my brain that I kind of pulled back and said, okay, let's try it. And it's been a real gift, and I hope I can just keep going with it.
What do you do for your mental health? Like, is there, you and your husband, like, together as a couple, what things do you do that just is like your release as a couple?
We really like to cook together, and we like to entertain, and having people around our table and pouring our wine and even having them come a little early and help us cook in our kitchen. It sounds kind of simple, but it's just really what do I want to say? Kind of a salve to kind of a crazy world. I just know that it's like a reset, like you use that word again. It's just a great reset. So I bet we do that at least once a week. And then we live out in the country, and we have about 8 acres. And so he's better at this than I do, but we're both outside working on the yard and that kind of stuff, and moving around and playing with the dog. And he's getting ready now because it's going to come up on hunting season here in South Dakota. So he's helping the Vizsla kind of get back on point. No pun intended. Yeah.
And then so we are getting older, and we talked about the ear candy. And I know that you're doing things to just stay active mentally, physically, emotionally, but sometimes things creep up. And let's talk about that and what the ear candy means.
Yeah. And let me tee that up a little bit, because when we talk about ears, we're talking about one of the senses. And one of the things I love to do just as sort of almost kind of a way of healing myself, if I need to just kind of reset, is to use all my senses. And I think we all need to do that more. So you go outside and you're going to use your sense of smell, and your eyes, and your touch, and your sound, and maybe your taste. I don't know. But so I think we don't pay enough attention to our senses. We don't use them to the full extent that we could. So one of the things that's imperative as we age is to keep those senses as sharp as we can. Obviously, I've got the big glasses, so I've had those since 5th grade. But yeah, vision obviously is very more common for us to think about. But I think so often we don't think about our hearing, or we kind of brush it off. And so I do tell a story in the book where, I think it's already 10 years ago now. So I was kind of young. I was 55. And my husband, I think, was getting frustrated with me not hearing him. And so one day he kind of sat me down and said, "Hey, Beck, I made appointments for both of us to get our hearing tested." I go, "Oh, okay." So we both went in to get our hearing tested. Sure enough, I was the one that needed my hearing aid, or as I call them, my ear candy. He did not. He was fine. So at that time I was blogging. I had a blog, and I wrote about that experience. And I can't tell you how many people I inspired to go get their hearing checked after reading that, because what I described is that when you're not hearing as well as you should, it impacts what's called cognitive load. And so your brain is trying to do these kind of mental gymnastics, like they say, spoon or tune or boat or yoke or whatever, you're just trying to figure out, okay, what did they just say? It's like, and it takes energy to figure out what people are saying. And so you increase your cognitive load. And so it's exhausting. If you can't hear, it's exhausting. So I can't tell you how much energy I was gifted back by starting to wear hearing aids. And the other thing that my husband said, he happens to be a family practice doc, he said, if you don't get hearing aids soon enough, your brain is going to forget how to hear. And there is science to that it kind of just shuts down. So I'm a big proponent of getting your hearing checked. And luckily now, since we're all walking around with these in our ears, walking around with something like this in our ears is not a big deal, right? So the only problem with our health system right now is they're very expensive. But yeah, I would like people to get their hearing checked.
So when she shared that with me, so I developed tinnitus. It's going on 3 years. My left ear, this buzzing started. It's almost like an electrical, and I was crazy because I'm like, what is this? So I went to my doctor, I went to my ENT, I went to the Ear Institute, and they're all like, you have tinnitus. And I'm like, but how do I get that? What does that mean? It needs to go away. I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
And it took me to understand, I don't know why it happened. Is it genetic? Did a loud noise go off in my ear that I didn't realize? So meanwhile, Stephen, who was in the music industry in the concert world for years, has no tinnitus and his hearing is perfect. And I'm like, anyway, the long story short is, and Becky, thank you for sharing this, and because it makes me want to talk about this, because thank God I found a great doctor, and she explained to me the importance of hearing. And she was like, even though I can hear, I have hearing loss in this ear. And she goes, you want to preserve your ear, you want to preserve your hearing. And so I have earplugs like musicians would wear if it's too loud at the movie theaters, if I do go to a concert, anywhere I am where it's just like a game and a bar, I put those earplugs in. I can still hear the conversation. It's not like those foam ones. They're very inexpensive, but I have hearing aids and I wear them as needed. And a lot of it is when I'm watching TV, because I would sit there and go, I don't know what they're saying. Now I can hear our conversation just fine. But what Becky said is, it's literally like, what are they saying? So please get your hearing checked. It is so important, just like even your eyes. Like, I have my readers that I need, but we have to take care of ourselves, preventative, right, Becky? It's if we're aware of something, we have to act on it.
That's right. And I think any of those people who I've talked to said, yeah, I took your advice and I went. I mean, nobody's ever said, oh, I wish I wouldn't have gotten hearing aids. I don't think. I mean, some of them maybe aren't quite fitting right or whatever. It was a game changer for me. Yeah.
Okay. Anything we didn't touch upon in the book, Becky, that you want to share? Because this is your time. This is your show.
Yeah, I think I just want to give the whole overview of why is it called Turning. And of course, it's called Turning because I was turning 60. But it's deeper than that, because then the subtitle is The Magic and Mystery of More Days. And so I hope what people gain from this is sort of that message that we need the real secret of aging, successful aging, is turning outside of ourselves and to see what the world needs. Because I think what's tempting, and if we listen to the culture in Madison Avenue and all the things and all the marketing, is that we should become our own little project. We should make our skin be beautiful. We should make our hair be beautiful. We should make our bodies be beautiful. We should ingest all this stuff that'll make us live forever. But what probably is the best is to just not be looking inside, but be looking out. And again, looking up. If you believe in a higher being, I think that can really bring life and hope. I guess I would say hope. But certainly just to see what your neighbor needs and get outside yourself. So to me, that's the real magic of turning.
I love that. And you're so right. Oh my gosh. Becky Blue, I love you.
Oh,
I'm so glad that I know you. I'm so grateful that our husbands met.
Yeah.
When
So
Stephen
random.
was walking by.
Yeah, I think this is how the universe does it, just like the Eleanor story. We get to cross paths with people, even if it's just for a few moments, but it can really be life-changing. Yeah.
Yeah, because nothing happens by accident.
This has just been a joy. It's really been a wonderful conversation. So thank you. You guys you're good at what you do. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. We appreciate that. On that note, everybody, remember, adopt, don't shop. You can follow us on all of our social media, our YouTube channel, which we love. Make sure you subscribe and like it and share it. I love wine and dogs, all one word. And that's all I got. So until next time, everybody, make it a great day.